Like it or not, Russia are right. I'm going to show you a brief news clip where the Russians have released a statement accusing Britain of being the main instigator in keeping the conflict between the Russians and the Ukrainians going. And afterwards I'll explain why I think they're actually correct.
A further statement from the Russian authorities accusing Britain of being the main instigator of the global conflict. In a statement, a Kremlin spokesman said that the British leadership sees a threat to its interests in the promotion of dialogue between the United States and Russia on resolving the Ukrainian conflict. London fears that this will lead to the failure of the British strategy of containing Moscow. As we can see, London today, just as it did on the eve of both world wars of the last century, acts as the main instigator of the global conflict.
Now, what I don't agree with, of course, is that Britain were the main instigators starting World War I and II. That's rubbish. They went on in their statement to also say that Britain thinks they can just sit this war out on their island and not be touched by the conflict. In other words, fuel the war, keep it going, but actually have nothing to do with it and let others die on their behalf. So there's rights and wrongs in the Russian statement. But what can't be denied, in my opinion, is that Starmer wanted to keep this conflict going, wanted to keep the arguing going, because it was, as he saw it, helping him politically. He had a slight bounce, maybe 1 or 2 points in the polls for a very short time. And that's why he wanted it, for politics. Not for the good of Ukraine, not to stop the conflict, not to stop the meat grinder, not to help his own people, but to actually try and improve his own political situation, which is, let's face it, dire. Even going as far as to try and form another coalition of the willing, of course, relating to the Iraq war. But that soon collapsed when Britain and the EU were frozen out of any negotiations whatsoever. The fact is, they've tried to outsmart Trump, but they've always been 2 or 3 steps behind him. And again, whether you like Putin or not is your affair. But the guy isn't stupid. And Lavrov certainly isn't stupid. In fact, he's probably the brains behind most of the Russian authorities, because he's a very smart operator on the world stage, far too smart for the likes of Starmer. Thankfully, this has all backfired on Starmer now and the EU because they look completely irrelevant. Some of them even begging Trump for another state visit, like Macron, for example. Starmer trying to phone Trump up, basically saying, don't leave us out, don't make us look stupid. Well, you are stupid. You tried to keep the war going, Trump's going to bring it to an end. Zelensky's been forced to the table, the Russians are going to the table. Let's just hope it's not too late, given the collapse we're seeing on the front lines.